The story of Atlantis has fascinated humankind for millennia. Some have dismissed it as a myth, while others insist it holds the keys to lost knowledge, ancient civilizations, and forgotten truths. Today, we dive deeply into the full story of Atlantis, the real truth they hid from you. Long before history was written in stone or carved onto tablets, there existed a civilization unlike any other. A civilization whose brilliance illuminated the ancient world, and whose downfall shook the very foundations of the earth. Atlantis. Legends whisper of a mighty empire, thriving beyond the Pillars of Hercules, where wisdom, power, and harmony reigned supreme. Its people harnessed energies unknown to modern science. They constructed grand cities of glittering stone, towering spires that kissed the heavens, and crystalline temples that vibrated with the heartbeat of the planet. The priests of Atlantis spoke of cosmic laws, of the unity between spirit and matter, of the hidden forces that bind the universe together. They lived not merely as mortals, but as custodians of sacred knowledge bestowed upon them by celestial beings from beyond the stars. Yet in their ascent toward the divine, the seeds of pride were sown. The Atlanteans, once keepers of balance, turned their gaze inward with hunger for domination. Their once pure energies were twisted into weapons of unparalleled devastation. The great crystals once used to heal and nurture were corrupted to tear the fabric of reality itself. The skies darkened, the oceans roared, the earth trembled in anguish. In a single fateful day and night, Atlantis was consumed. Mountains were swallowed by the sea. Flames devoured the forests. The golden spires crumbled into oblivion. What remained was silence, an aching void where once a beacon of enlightenment had shone. But Atlantis was not entirely lost. Survivors bearing fragments of their ancient wisdom fled across the waters. To Egypt, they brought the secrets of pyramid building and celestial navigation. To the Americas, they seeded legends of white gods who arrived from the sea, bearing knowledge of the stars. To Asia, they whispered the mysteries of the cosmos into the hearts of sages. Their knowledge, once shining as the midday sun, became hidden, enshrouded in allegory, protected by mystery schools and guarded by secret orders. Only echoes remained, the myths of Eden, of Avalon, of Shambhala, all variations of the lost homeland that memory refused to release. Hidden temples beneath shifting sands, sunken structures lying dormant beneath the waves, forgotten inscriptions carved into sacred stones, all remnants of a time when humanity touched the divine and fell. Modern science glimpses these truths but looks away. Structures older than history itself defy explanation. Maps that should not exist reveal lands long buried beneath ice. Technologies once thought impossible now emerge as humanity rediscovers fragments of its forgotten past. The earth holds its breath, waiting for us to remember. For Atlantis was not merely a place. It was a state of being, a frequency of existence where spirit and science danced as one. To awaken Atlantis is to awaken the lost parts of ourselves, the parts that remember how to heal, how to create, how to live in harmony with all that is. The real truth they hid is that Atlantis never truly disappeared. It sleeps within our bones, in our dreams, in the silent yearning for something greater, a golden age we know deep within we once lived. And now, the call resounds across the world once more. Atlantis is rising, not from the depths of the oceans, but from the depths of our souls. After the fall of Atlantis, the world plunged into a long and restless slumber. The lights that once burned brightly in the temples of knowledge were extinguished. What remained were scattered fragments, whispers of a time when humanity walked among the stars, when the language of the earth was understood by those who knew how to listen. The survivors of Atlantis, burdened with the weight of memories, carried the embers of their civilization to distant lands. Some sailed eastward, where the rising sun bathed the shores of what would become Egypt. Others journeyed west, to the dense jungles and soaring mountains of the Americas. They did not come as conquerors but as teachers, humble custodians of a knowledge too powerful to entrust to those unready to receive it. In the fertile valley of the Nile, they shared the secrets of sacred geometry, revealing how to anchor the heavens to the earth. The Great Pyramid, aligned precisely to the stars of Orion's belt, stands as a silent sentinel of those ancient truths, each stone laid not just with engineering skill, but with intention, harmonizing the vibrations of earth and sky, body and soul. Far across the vast ocean, the memory of Atlantis took root among the peoples of Mesoamerica. Here, too, pyramids rose, echoing the structures of their lost homeland. Calendars were crafted with astonishing precision, tracking not only the movement of the sun but the hidden cycles of cosmic energy that govern the rise and fall of civilizations. Yet in every land touched by the survivors, the same pattern emerged. Their teachings, initially pure and untainted, were distorted by those who sought power over wisdom. The mysteries were hidden away, wrapped in symbols and veiled in allegories lest they be abused once again. Time passed. Empires rose and fell, languages changed. But the pulse of Atlantis, faint and persistent, continued to beat beneath the surface of the world. Those who knew how to listen, how to remember, heard its call in dreams, in sudden moments of inspiration, in the aching sense that something precious had been lost. The hidden societies that formed in later ages, the keepers of the ancient flame, traced their lineage back to Atlantis. Among them were the priesthoods of Egypt, the philosophers of Greece, the alchemists of the Middle Ages, and the architects of secret brotherhoods whose symbols still adorn the monuments of power. They preserved what they could, the laws of vibration and polarity, the mysteries of the inner temple, the knowledge of how thought shapes reality. But even they knew Atlantis could not be rebuilt by secret knowledge alone. It could only rise again when humanity as a whole was ready, when enough souls had awakened to remember who they truly were. And so the Guardians waited, lifetime after lifetime, watching for the signs, watching for the moment when the sleepers would stir, when the veils would thin, and when the sons and daughters of Atlantis would reclaim their forgotten birthright. That moment is now beginning. Across the planet, ancient energies stir once more. Sacred sites, long dormant, begin to resonate with subtle frequencies. Individuals, from every race, every nation, are awakening, feeling the pull of something greater, something timeless. It is the memory of Atlantis, rising from the depths of consciousness. It is the soul's call to rebuild what was lost, not through stone and crystal alone, but through the awakening of spirit, the restoration of balance, and the remembrance of unity. The question remains: will we heed the call, or will we once again fall to pride and forgetfulness? The future has not yet been written, but the past is speaking louder than ever before. Atlantis is not a myth. It is a memory. It is a prophecy, and it is a promise. A promise that, once remembered, will change everything. Long before the invention of engines and wires, long before humanity chained itself to the crude forces of coal and steam, there existed another kind of power, a force as ancient as the stars themselves. The Atlanteans had learned to harness the invisible rivers of energy that flow through all matter, the living breath of the cosmos. At the heart of their civilization stood the Great Crystal, an immense monolithic structure pulsing with light, humming with frequencies beyond human hearing. This was not merely a monument. It was the living heart of Atlantis, the source of its power, its wisdom, and ultimately its downfall. The Great Crystal, known in the forgotten tongue as the Eye of Poseidon, was capable of drawing in the natural energies of the earth and amplifying them 1,000-fold. With it, the Atlanteans healed the sick, nourished the crops, and powered the luminous cities that shone like stars upon the earth. Crystals of various kinds were used for specific purposes. Clear quartz for energy amplification, amethyst for mental clarity and spiritual protection, selenite for communication with higher realms, obsidian for grounding the immense forces they wielded. Each structure, each device was designed not merely with physical engineering but with an understanding of resonance. Buildings were tuned to specific frequencies. Bridges sang with harmonic vibrations. Temples were placed along the planet's energy lines to maximize the flow of cosmic life force. Atlantean scientists, if one could even call them that, were more like magi. Blending the precision of science with the intuition of spirit, they understood that all matter is vibration, that consciousness itself shapes reality. And so their technology was alive, responsive not only to touch but to thought, to intention, to the soul's desire. Transportation was achieved not by combustion but by anti-gravitational fields generated through controlled resonance. Vehicles floated effortlessly above the ground, guided by harmonics rather than engines. Some even speak of portals, gates woven of light and sound, allowing instantaneous travel between distant points on the earth and perhaps even beyond. Healing, too, was an art beyond our imagining. Diseases were seen not as invaders but as disharmonies in the body's energy field. Using focused sound, light frequencies, and crystalline arrays, healers restored the body's natural resonance, curing ailments at their root rather than merely treating symptoms. But the greatest secret of Atlantean technology was its symbiosis with consciousness. Devices did not merely respond to mechanical input, they responded to the operator's mind. Only those trained to purify their thoughts and intentions could safely use the highest forms of technology. A heart clouded by greed or anger would cause resonance to distort, sometimes with catastrophic results. It was this dependence on purity of spirit that ultimately led to Atlantis' downfall. As corruption spread through the hearts of its people, the delicate balance between mind, energy, and matter began to unravel. The great crystal, once a beacon of harmony, became unstable. When its frequencies were misaligned, the energy it amplified turned violent, tearing through the fabric of the earth itself. In the final days, as the crystal throbbed with chaotic power, the skies turned red with fire. The oceans rose in rage. The once great empire was swallowed by the very forces it had once mastered. But fragments of this ancient knowledge survived. Some crystals, it is said, were hidden in deep caverns. Some devices, inert and dormant, await the time when humanity might once again be ready to wield them with wisdom and love. The echoes of Atlantean technology whisper through our world even now, in the crystalline structures of snowflakes, in the resonance of sacred music, in the unseen currents of energy that bind all life together. For those with eyes to see and ears to hear, the legacy of Atlantis is all around us. Waiting, watching, calling us to remember. Beyond the gleaming cities and crystalline towers, hidden within the sacred mountains and beneath the hallowed temples of Atlantis, there lay another secret, a mystery more profound than energy manipulation, more sacred than healing arts. The mastery of the gates between worlds. The Atlanteans knew that reality was but one layer of existence. Beneath the surface of the visible world, countless realms pulsed and shimmered. Dimensions of light, thought, and spirit. They called them the inner worlds, the realms of the many heavens. Through the precise arrangement of crystalline structures, sacred symbols, and harmonic frequencies, the priests and magi of Atlantis could open portals. Shimmering veils in space and time, these gates did not lead merely across continents, but into entirely different planes of being. In the great temple of the crystal flame, located at the heart of Atlantis, stood the most powerful of these portals. Legends speak of an immense archway, formed from translucent stones that refracted not sunlight, but pure cosmic energy. When activated, the arch would glow with a radiant white-blue light, vibrating in resonance with distant worlds. Initiates who passed through the gate did not do so lightly. Only after years of spiritual purification, mental discipline, and heart-centered training could one hope to survive the journey. For the gateways responded not to force but to frequency. Only a soul vibrating at the required harmony could cross safely into the higher realms. Through these portals, the Atlanteans made contact with beings of light, entities who existed beyond the limitations of matter, who shared wisdom and guidance to help Atlantis flourish. They traveled to the Akashic realms, where the history of all things was inscribed in patterns of luminous energy. They journeyed to worlds where thought and reality were one, where a single intention could shape landscapes and summon new life. Some expeditions sought to map the multiverse itself. Atlantean records, now lost to the sands of time, spoke of star systems teeming with life, civilizations of pure sound, and oceans of light stretching across dimensions unseen. But as the heart of Atlantis grew sick with pride and ambition, even the sacred portals were misused. Some sought forbidden realms, drawn by the lure of power. They attempted to open rifts to domains where malevolent forces lurked, beings of chaos eager to enter and consume the world of matter. The great tragedy of Atlantis was not simply a flood or a fire. It was the tearing of the sacred fabric between worlds. A rupture that unbalanced not only Earth but the etheric web connecting all life. In the final hours, as the great crystal destabilized and the sea rose to reclaim the land, the portals were sealed. The knowledge of their operation was hidden, encoded in symbols too ancient for most to recognize. Guardians were appointed, souls who vowed to return in future ages when humanity was once again ready to walk between worlds with humility and grace. Some say these gates still exist, buried beneath forgotten temples, hidden in the labyrinths beneath sacred mountains, veiled by the sands of shifting deserts. Others believe that the true portal is within, waiting to be unlocked by those who awaken their latent spiritual sight. Today, as consciousness rises once again, the veil grows thinner. Dreams become more vivid. Visions become more potent, and the call of the inner worlds grows louder. Atlantis speaks not only of a past lost to tragedy, but of a future yet to be reclaimed. The gates still await those with the courage to seek them, not through force, not through conquest, but through the purity of a heart aligned with the true song of the cosmos. Those who remember will find the way. Those who awaken will walk once more among the stars. The Atlanteans did not view humanity as mere flesh and bone. They knew that the physical body was but the outermost layer, a temporary vessel shaped from the dust of stars. Beyond the skin, beyond the blood and sinew lay greater mysteries. The luminous architecture of the soul itself. They taught that every being was composed of multiple interwoven bodies, each vibrating at different frequencies. Each layer was a reflection of consciousness, a bridge between the realms of spirit and matter. The first body was the physical vessel, the most tangible, the most fragile. It was the house of experience crafted with sacred geometry, designed to interface with the world of form. But to the Atlanteans, the physical was never the source of life, only its shadow. The second body was the etheric template, a shimmering matrix of energy that maintained the blueprint of the physical form. It vibrated slightly beyond the visible, flowing with rivers of life force. Damage to the etheric field would eventually manifest as sickness in the body, and so Atlantean healers always worked first upon this subtle structure. The third body was the emotional field, or the waters of the soul. It ebbed and flowed like tides, colored by the thoughts, feelings, and desires of the individual. Emotions, they knew, were not merely internal states, but radiant energies that shaped the very fabric of reality around a person. The fourth body was the mental body, the realm of thought and belief. In Atlantis, mastery of the mental field was essential. Thoughts were seen not as private musings, but as forces capable of building or destroying, healing or wounding. To think was to create. Thus, discipline of the mind was sacred. The fifth body was the causal body, the keeper of memory beyond time. It held the imprints of all lives lived, all lessons learned, all choices made across countless incarnations. Through the causal body, a soul could glimpse the great tapestry of existence, understanding the purpose behind every sorrow and every triumph. Beyond these, shimmering like a halo of light, were the higher bodies. The soul body, radiant and eternal, the true essence of being. And beyond even that, the spirit body, a spark of the infinite, untouched by space or time, forever connected to the source from which all life flows. Atlantean initiates were taught to perceive these layers not with their physical eyes, but with the inner sight, the awakening of the third eye, the seat of true vision. They mapped the flows of energy within the human form, the great river known as the central channel running from crown to base. The 7 primary energy vortices, later called chakras, each a gateway to a higher realm of consciousness. The webs of light connecting body to soul, soul to cosmos. Healing, growth, enlightenment, all depended upon the harmonization of these subtle bodies. When a person's emotional field was wounded, the mental body became clouded, leading to distortion in the etheric matrix and eventually disease in the physical form. Thus, true healing began not with herbs or incantations, but with the cleansing of thought, the balancing of emotion, the restoration of alignment between the layers of being. The highest initiates learned to project their consciousness beyond the physical body, traveling across realms, weaving threads between worlds, gathering knowledge from the stars themselves. They understood that the soul was not bound to earth alone. It was a traveler, an eternal pilgrim in a universe of infinite possibilities. Every human being, they taught, carries within them the entire cosmos. Every heartbeat echoes the pulse of distant stars. Every breath draws in the music of unseen worlds. To remember this truth was to reclaim one's rightful place as a child of both earth and heaven, as a living bridge between the worlds. This was the true legacy of Atlantis. Not the ruins lost beneath the sea, but the blueprint of divinity hidden within each soul. And though the temples have crumbled and the names have been forgotten, the truth endures, waiting, whispering, calling us to awaken. In the ancient days of Atlantis, education was not a mechanical transfer of knowledge. It was a sacred unfolding, the slow awakening of the divine spark within each soul. From the moment a child drew their first breath, they were recognized as a bearer of infinite potential. They were not seen as empty vessels to be filled, but as ancient beings who had chosen to incarnate once more, carrying hidden wisdom from beyond the stars. In the early years, the focus was not on facts or figures, but on the harmonization of body, mind, and spirit. Children learned the language of nature, the rhythms of the tides, the songs of the wind, the subtle heartbeat of the earth beneath their feet. They were taught to listen, truly listen, to the silent whispers of the world around them. They were guided to remember the sacredness of every living thing. Each stone, each tree, each bird was honored as a conscious being, part of the great web of life. As the child grew, their unique gifts began to reveal themselves. Some showed a natural affinity for healing. Others demonstrated the ability to manipulate sound and light. Some were born dream walkers, able to traverse the realms beyond sleep. Each gift was nurtured with care, never forced, always unfolding at its natural pace. At the age of maturity, not defined by years but by the ripening of the soul, the child was brought before the council of elders. These elders were not rulers but wise stewards of the ancient ways. They perceived the soul's song within each initiate, and through ancient rites determined the path of their sacred service. For those whose destiny was to walk the path of wisdom, initiation into the mysteries would begin. Initiation was not a ceremony of mere words and symbols. It was a living transformation, a death of the old self, a rebirth into the greater reality. The first stage was the trial of the elements. The initiate would undergo profound tests to harmonize with earth, water, fire, and air. They would live in deep caves to feel the pulse of the stone. They would float for days upon sacred waters, learning to trust the unseen currents. They would meditate within walls of flame, feeling not fear but the dance of transmutation. They would stand atop high cliffs, surrendering to the breath of the wind, merging with the sky itself. Only when the initiate had demonstrated mastery over their own fears, desires, and illusions could they proceed. The second stage was the trial of the inner realms. Here the journey turned inward. In sacred chambers beneath the temples, initiates would undergo induced dream journeys. Guided by masters of consciousness, they would face visions of their deepest shadows and their highest potentials. They would travel through the landscapes of their own soul, crossing deserts of loneliness, climbing mountains of aspiration, sailing oceans of memory. They would meet guardians, luminous beings who tested their integrity, purity, and resilience. It was said that some initiates never returned, their consciousness shattered by the truths they were unprepared to face. But those who emerged from the inner realms carried a light within them, a radiant fire that no earthly storm could extinguish. The final stage was the trial of the stars. The initiate would ascend the sacred mountains where the veil between worlds was thin. Under the open sky, they would align themselves with the ancient constellations, Orion, Sirius, Pleiades, and open themselves to the influx of stellar energies. There, under the singing heavens, the initiate would receive their final visions. They would see their true name, the sound of their soul in the language of the cosmos. They would remember who they had been, who they were, and who they were destined to become. With the blessing of the stars, they would return to Atlantis, not as a mere citizen, but as a living bridge between worlds, a keeper of the sacred flame. Their duty was not power, but service, not domination, but remembrance. For the Atlanteans knew, true mastery was not the accumulation of knowledge, but the embodiment of wisdom through love, humility, and reverence for all life. Thus were the guardians of Atlantis born. Thus was the sacred lineage preserved, even through the fall. And even now, though the temples lie in ruins and the songs have faded, the echoes of those ancient initiations linger. In dreams, in distant memories, in the silent pull toward something greater. The path of initiation is not lost. It lives still, hidden in the heart of those who are ready to remember. In the twilight of Atlantis, a shadow fell upon the once radiant land. The songs that once rose from the crystal spires became strained, discordant. The luminous cities, once vibrating in perfect harmony with the earth, began to tremble with unseen tensions, and in the hearts of the people a quiet sickness grew, the slow and fatal disease of forgetting. It did not happen all at once. The descent was subtle, like the changing of the seasons, almost imperceptible until it was too late. The priesthood, once the guardians of sacred law, fractured into rival factions. Some remained loyal to the ancient ways, calling for a return to balance and humility. Others, seduced by visions of power and immortality, sought to bend the energies of the earth to their own will. In hidden laboratories, experiments once unthinkable were conducted. Crystals were overcharged beyond safe limits. Portals were opened to realms whose energies the Atlanteans could not control. The delicate web of life that had sustained the land for millennia began to tear. The great crystal itself, heart of the land, grew unstable. Its hum, once a soothing resonance, became a deep and ominous vibration, a warning to those who could still hear. The skies grew heavy with strange lights. The oceans began to churn with unnatural tides. Animals sensitive to the shifts in the earth's energy fled the cities in frantic herds. And among the people, dreams turned dark. Night after night, the seers and mystics of Atlantis received visions of towering waves, of fire raining from the heavens, of the land sinking beneath a furious sea. At first, these warnings were dismissed. The pride of Atlantis had grown too great. Many believed themselves untouchable. masters of the world above the laws of nature and spirit alike. But there were some who listened. In secret gatherings, the last true guardians of the ancient wisdom convened. They met beneath the temples, deep in the labyrinthine halls, where the echoes of the first songs still lingered. There, by the light of sacred flames, they spoke of what was to come. They knew the land could not be saved. The corruption had spread too deeply. The balance had been broken beyond repair. But they could save something. They could save the memory. Plans were made to preserve the knowledge. Crystals encoded with sacred frequencies were hidden deep within the earth. Scrolls of living light recording the true history of the world were placed in vaults beyond the reach of time. Initiates were tasked with carrying fragments of the wisdom to distant lands, Egypt, the Americas, the mountains of the East, not to rebuild Atlantis as it was, for that cycle had ended, but to plant seeds for a future age, when humanity might once again be ready to walk the path of light. The guardians wept, for they loved their homeland with a love beyond words, but they knew that the fall was part of a greater pattern, the dance of death and rebirth that governed all things. In the final days, strange signs filled the skies. Great pillars of fire rose from the earth. Thunder rolled from clear skies. The seas withdrew from the shores, only to return in towering walls of water. The people of Atlantis, realizing too late their folly, cried out for salvation. But the guardians knew. The time for salvation had passed. Now was the time of remembering. Now was the time of letting go. In solemn procession, the last initiates entered the inner sanctums. They sang the old songs one final time. Songs of creation, of unity, of the eternal journey of the soul. Their voices rose as the earth trembled beneath them, as the seas advanced with the roar of destiny. And then, silence. The golden spires fell. The cities of light were swallowed by the hungry ocean. The land that had once been the crown jewel of the earth vanished beneath the waves. But the flame did not die. It lived on, hidden, protected, nurtured, within the hearts of those who remembered. And it lives still, waiting for the day when the children of Atlantis will rise again, not to build empires of stone, but to awaken the eternal temple within. When the last lights of Atlantis flickered and died beneath the raging seas, not all was lost. Scattered among the survivors were the keepers, men and women who had been chosen long before the final cataclysm to carry the sacred knowledge into the future. Their mission was not conquest nor domination. It was preservation. It was remembrance. Guided by visions in the unseen hands of higher powers, they set sail into the unknown, each bearing within them fragments of the great song of Atlantis. To the ancient lands of Kemet, later known as Egypt, a group of keepers arrived. They brought with them the secrets of sacred geometry, of cosmic alignments, of the hidden language that wove spirit into stone. Upon the banks of the Nile, they laid the foundations for what would become the cradle of a new age. They taught the people to align their monuments with the stars, to preserve the memory of the cosmos within stone itself. The Great Pyramid of Giza, though attributed to later kings, echoes the silent architecture of Atlantis. Its proportions mirror the sacred ratios, its orientation perfect to the cardinal points, its hidden chambers resonating with the pulse of the earth. Beneath its foundations, it is whispered, lies a hidden hall, a vault of memory containing the remnants of Atlantean science, waiting for the day when humanity would once again be ready to receive it. Far across the vast oceans, other keepers found refuge among the fertile valleys and soaring mountains of what is now South America. Among the peoples who would become the Olmec, the Maya, and the Inca, they sowed the seeds of stellar wisdom. They taught the mysteries of time, the intricate cycles of Venus and the Pleiades, the harmonies of the celestial clockwork. They showed how to build temples not merely to honor the gods, but to mirror the heavens, creating bridges between earth and sky. The cities of Teotihuacan, Palenque, and Tiahuanaco bear silent witness to this inheritance, vast complexes aligned with cosmic precision, inscriptions speaking of star travelers and cycles beyond the reckoning of modern historians. Legends among these peoples speak of pale-skinned, bearded teachers who arrived from across the seas, bringing light and knowledge, echoes of the Atlantean missionaries whose names have long been forgotten. In the Far East, too, the flame of Atlantis flickered anew. In the valleys of ancient India, in the foothills of the Himalayas, in the remote lands that would later whisper of Shambhala, the keepers nurtured another thread of the great tapestry. Here the knowledge took a different form, the deep sciences of the soul, the intricate mappings of consciousness, the techniques of inner transformation. The Vedas, the Upanishads, the ancient texts of yogic wisdom, all carry traces of Atlantean memory, woven into the songs and philosophies of a people who gazed inward, seeking to master not the earth, but themselves. Even in distant China and Japan, legends persist of visitors from across the waters, bearers of celestial knowledge, builders of ancient megaliths whose purpose remains a mystery to this day. Each group of survivors adapted their teachings to the lands and the people they found. Some knowledge was preserved openly, some was hidden, wrapped in myth and symbol, protected from those who would misuse it. But in every land, in every tradition, the same golden thread can be traced, a remembrance of a time when humanity walked hand in hand with the cosmos, when knowledge served wisdom, and when spirit infused every act of creation. The mission of the keepers was not merely to survive, it was to ensure that the memory of Atlantis, though obscured, would never be completely extinguished. They planted their seeds in the fertile soil of human destiny, trusting that in some distant age when the stars once again aligned, those seeds would awaken. And now, as the cycles turn, as humanity stands at the threshold of a new dawn, the ancient memory stirs. The temples whisper, the stones sing, the soul remembers. Atlantis was never truly lost. It lives in the echoes of the pyramids. It shines in the sacred geometry of forgotten cities. It breathes in the mantras of the sages, and most of all, it lives within us, waiting to be awakened once more. Long ago, before the seas claimed the golden towers and the winds erased the songs from the high temples, the keepers of Atlantis foresaw the coming storm. They knew that not all knowledge could be entrusted to memory alone. Some truths were too sacred, too potent, to risk fading into legend. Thus were the sacred artifacts created, vessels of power, wisdom, and memory hidden from the eyes of the profane, preserved across the shifting sands of time. Each artifact was more than a relic. It was a living bridge between worlds, a seed of remembrance placed carefully in the soil of the future. Among the greatest of these were the crystal of Thoth, a sphere of flawless quartz, infused with the resonance of universal consciousness. It contained within it the harmonic codes of creation itself, the blueprints for healing, for constructing sacred structures, for aligning the soul with the stars. Legends say it lies deep beneath the sands of Egypt, guarded by timeless watchers awaiting the awakening of those who can sing its frequencies once again. The tablets of fire, sheets of a metal unknown to modern science, inscribed not with ink, but with living light. Upon them were etched the laws of vibration, the true nature of time, and the secret of traversing between dimensions. Fragments of these tablets, it is said, inspired the earliest writings of ancient civilizations, their true meaning lost beneath layers of mistranslation and dogma. The rod of the morning star, a staff of crystalline alloy, said to channel and direct the subtle energies of the earth itself. With it, the Atlantean priests could heal the land, balance the tectonic forces, and open gateways between worlds. Whispers suggest it was carried east after the fall, hidden within the remote monasteries of the high mountains, guarded by silent orders whose names have been erased from history. The seal of Amun-Ra. an ancient device capable of attuning its bearer to the cosmic mind. It was both a key and a map, a guide to finding the other artifacts scattered across the broken memory of the world. Some believe its echoes can still be found in the design of ancient labyrinths and hidden glyphs etched into sacred walls. But the artifacts were never meant to be tools for power. They were guardians, safeguards, keys that would awaken only when the consciousness of humanity had risen high enough to wield them with wisdom and love. For in the wrong hands, these artifacts could unleash forces beyond comprehension, tearing the veil between worlds, drawing chaos once more into the fragile dance of life. Thus they were hidden, beneath the shifting deserts, within mountains whose peaks kiss the heavens, under the floors of ancient temples drowned by forgotten seas. Some say they slumber still. Some say fragments have already been found, misinterpreted, hidden away by those who fear their power. Others believe that the true artifacts are not of stone or metal, but are encoded within the DNA of the Atlantean bloodlines themselves, waiting to be activated through consciousness alone. In dreams, seekers are called to forgotten places. In visions, they see symbols they do not understand, feel urgings they cannot explain. It is the whisper of Atlantis. It is the memory of the artifacts, reaching across time, calling to those who can complete the circle, who can lift the veil, who can rebuild the bridge between the stars and the earth. The age of remembrance is at hand, and the artifacts, silent, patient, eternal, await the hands of the awakened. When the time is right, when the soul of humanity sings once more in harmony with the great cosmic choir, the gates will open. The crystal will shine. The tablets will speak. And Atlantis will rise, not from the depths of the ocean, but from the depths of the human soul. The call of Atlantis is not a memory bound to dusty scrolls or sunken stones. It is alive, a silent resonance moving through the rivers of human consciousness, awakening those whose souls once walked the shining avenues of the First Empire. In this time of great change, the ancient pulse stirs once more, and across the world countless souls feel its pull, though many cannot yet name it. How does one know if they are connected to Atlantis? The signs are subtle yet undeniable, for they speak not to the mind, but to the heart of remembrance. A deep longing for the forgotten golden age. You have felt it. The aching, wordless yearning for a world more harmonious, more radiant than this one. A knowing that somewhere, somehow, humanity once lived in unity with nature, with spirit, with the stars. This longing is not fantasy, it is memory, an unshakable fascination with ancient civilizations. You are drawn irresistibly to the mysteries of Egypt, the ruins of South America, the legends of lost lands, not as a casual curiosity, but as if you are seeking something, someone you once knew. Their stones call to you across time. The language of symbols speaks to you, sacred geometry, spirals, pyramids, mandalas. These are not mere decorations. To your inner vision, they pulse with meaning, unlocking ancient keys hidden deep within your soul. You feel at home among symbols older than recorded history, an intuitive understanding of energy and vibration. Long before you read about frequency, before you learned the words resonance and vibrational healing, you knew. You sensed the unseen currents flowing through all things. You felt the life in crystals, the power in certain sounds, the truth vibrating through sacred places. A natural gift for healing and creation. Your hands know how to soothe, to mend, to infuse life into what was broken. You create art, music, spaces that heal without needing to understand how. You remember, on a soul level, how to weave energy with intention, dreams of lost cities and distant stars. In sleep, you wander through shining cities with crystal towers, walk in gardens that hum with living light, gaze into skies unfamiliar yet intimately known. Sometimes you awaken with tears, unable to explain the beauty you have seen, a calling to serve a higher purpose. You feel it, a pull, a responsibility not to dominate but to heal, not to conquer but to awaken. You know that your life has a mission beyond survival, beyond success, a mission woven into the very fiber of your being. If these signs stir something within you, a shiver, a memory, a silent yes, then know this: you are among the children of Atlantis. You have walked these paths before, and now you walk them again. You are here not by chance, but by design. You chose to return at this pivotal time, to help humanity remember, to rebuild the bridge between the earth and the stars. The ancient flame burns within you still. It may flicker, hidden beneath the burdens of the modern world. It may be buried beneath doubts and fears, but it is there, waiting, patient, eternal. The awakening of Atlantean consciousness is not a return to old glory, but the birth of something new, a higher synthesis, a remembering that leads not backward but forward, into a future where the mistakes of the past are transmuted into wisdom. The song of Atlantis calls to you, softly, lovingly, unceasingly. All you need to do is listen, and when you do, you will find that you were never alone. The memories, the gifts, the destiny, they have always been yours. Atlantis was not lost. It lives within you, and through you it shall rise once more. A great turning is upon the earth. Across oceans and continents, across languages and traditions, a silent revolution stirs, not one of weapons or conquest, but of remembrance and awakening. The ancient dream of Atlantis, once shattered by pride and forgotten by time, rises anew in the hearts of those who dare to listen. But this time, it must be different. The new Atlantis will not be built of gold and crystal alone. It will not rise by the hands of kings or priests. It will not belong to one land, one people, or one creed. The new Atlantis will be woven from consciousness itself. Its foundations will be compassion. Its walls will be forged from unity. Its towers will be raised by hands that remember that true power lies not in domination, but in service. The mistakes of the past must not be repeated. Where once pride corrupted wisdom, now humility must guide knowledge. Where once technology was wielded without reverence, now every creation must honor the sacred web of life. Where once ambition severed the bond between spirit and matter, now every act must heal, must unite, must remember. The blueprint for the new Atlantis already exists. It beats within every awakened heart. It shines in every act of kindness, every work of healing, every moment when one soul reaches out to another with love. You who feel the call are the builders, not with bricks and mortar, but with your thoughts, your words, your deeds. Each time you choose forgiveness over anger, you lay a stone. Each time you act with compassion, you raise a pillar. Each time you honor the earth, the stars, and the spirit within all things, you weave the invisible walls of the new temple. The rivers will sing once more. The stones will glow beneath the footsteps of the righteous. The sky will open its hidden gates to those who walk in harmony. This is not a utopian fantasy. It is the ancient promise made long before the first tower of Atlantis was ever raised. It is the fulfillment of a cycle written in the stars, whispered by the ancestors, guarded by the unseen hands of those who never forgot. The earth herself yearns for it. She dreams of the day when her children, once lost in forgetfulness, will rise as co-creators once again. The new Atlantis is not a place you find. It is a place you become. It is born in the sacred marriage of wisdom and love, of knowledge and humility, of power and compassion. And when enough souls remember, when enough hearts sing the ancient song once more, it will not matter where they stand. For the new Atlantis will bloom wherever they walk. The seas will recognize them. The winds will carry their voices. The stars will align to crown their return. The dream is alive. The time is now. The builders are awakening. And through their remembering, Atlantis shall rise again. not from the depths of the ocean, but from the limitless depths of the human spirit. This time, not to fall. This time, to endure. This time, to shine as a beacon across the ages, a testament to what humanity can become when it chooses to walk once more in harmony with the living soul of the cosmos. Atlantis calls. And we are ready to answer.